Today, we are dealing with one of the bullet points in GS3, challenges to internal security through communication networks, role of media and social networking sites in internal security, challenges and basics of cybersecurity. So this is basically the whole of cybersecurity that is part of your syllabus. Okay, so out of around 20 bullet points mentioned in the GS3 paper, this is one of those. Okay, this video I'm recording for both people who are writing mains 2020 as well as the 2021 students, because here I have covered all the current affairs of the last 6-7 months which dealt with cyber security and related issues. So I've divided this section into three major topics. One is the basics of cyber security. We will first start with the basics of cyber security before we go on to challenges to internal security through communication networks and role of media and social networking sites in internal security. Okay, so one by one we'll deal with all three of these things, and after this, again, like many other previous topics, you would not need to study anything else for these topics other than some current updates which may happen by next year for 2021 people. For 2020 people, you will see that I've covered each and everything which was relevant for the examination. Okay, so let us start with it. The syllabus we have already discussed: challenges to internal security through communication networks, role of media and social networking sites in internal security challenges, and basics of cyber security. Here I've also listed questions of last 20 years. Now, I'll not go through each one of them, but go through these questions. This will give you an idea that cyber security has been one of the favorite topics with the UPSC, and they have regularly asked questions related to it. Though the question last year, what is Cyber Dome project, was a specific question which was dealing with a state project. Cyber Dome is a project of the Kerala Police Department. So this time what I have done is I've also included details of certain projects which were launched in 1 year. Again, it will not be feasible, it will not be possible to get into the details of every state project. So what I've done is at least all the central government projects which were there in last 1 year, which till last year we only used to cover for preliminary examination. I have included them also here, so that if a question like this, question like Cyber Dome project from central government's schemes is asked, you should be able to answer that. Before that, questions have been very generic. Discuss the potential threat of cyber attacks and the security framework to prevent it. Considering the threats cyberspace poses for the country, India needs a digital armed force to prevent crimes. Critically evaluate the National Cyber Security Policy 2013 outlining the challenges perceived in its effective implementation. Cyber warfare is considered by some analysts to be larger threat than even Al-Qaeda or terrorism. So what you see here is, what do you understand by cyber warfare? Outline the cyber threats which India is vulnerable to and bring out the state of the country's preparedness to deal with the same. So other than the first question, question number 2, question number 3, question number 4, these questions have been question number 2, 3, 4 have been very generic in nature. They have been asking like India's preparedness for cyber threats. They have been asking questions related to what limitations are there in India's cyber security policy, and therefore the first topic that we're dealing with, cyber security situation in general, there we'll talk about basics of cyber security, what are the threats India is facing from the perspective of cyber security, how or what measures have been taken by India to deal with those threats or to deal with those challenges related to cyber security, and way forward in general what should be done. So the first topic should cater to question numbers 2, 3, 4. Okay, but all these questions, all these things we are covering under the basics of cyber security also. Other than this also, we will be covering the remaining 2 bullet points in the remaining 2 topics which is mentioned in the syllabus but has not been asked in the examination so far. Okay, before this, the questions which were asked from the cyber security perspective were a combination of science and technology and cyber security. For example, there were questions like what is malware, what is firewall, what are hackers in computer world, what is a virus, what is an internet worm, how does computer virus destroy data, what is a computer virus, how does it infect systems. So you'll see that these kind of fundamental questions have also been asked. So we will go through these fundamentals also, because if UPSC has asked these things in the past, we should be prepared for it. And even if they don't ask it in cyber security topic, these questions or these terms, malware, firewalls, virus, internet worm, computer virus, these things may get asked in the science and technology portion, because issues related to information technology, computers is mentioned in your science and technology syllabus. Therefore, we will cover these fundamental aspects as well. Okay, so other than this, I've also provided you some practice questions. Go through it, go through this topic and try to attempt these questions. Now, here we have lots of reasons because of which cyber security was in news. For example, in this year's Independence Day speech, Prime Minister Modi had called for need for an effective cyber security policy. So we have a cyber security policy, but this was an indication that India is in the process of updating its cyber security policy, because we need an effective cyber security policy. And therefore in September 2020, various news reports reported that new national cyber security strategy is awaiting cabinet's approval. The government is in the process of finalizing a new cyber security policy. So here we should understand, like because of this news, we should understand what is India's cyber security policy, what like the 2013 policy that is existing right now, what are the problems associated with it, that is, why do we need a new policy, what are the issues associated with the first cyber security policy. Then following reports of, there was another news in July 2020 which is talking about that after the border tension between India and China has gone up and India has started banning a number of Chinese apps, the cyber attacks by Chinese hackers onto Indian sites have increased. This was also agreed by a Singapore-based cybersecurity firm, Pharma Research, which said that Chinese hackers have increased their attack on the top Indian government establishments. In the same way, in June 2020, BEML, which is a public sector undertaking in the defense sector, its internal data, email IDs were hacked, leaked on the dark web. It was like the experts believed that this was an act of cyber terrorism from Pakistan. In March 2020, a report was released by Subex. Subex is a Bangalore-based firm providing analytics to telecom and communication service providers. And according to them, in March 2019, for the first 3 months, that is second quarter of March 2000, first quarter of 2019 was from January to March, second quarter was April to June. So in the second quarter of 2019, it should not be March, it should be just 2019. In the second quarter of 2019, India was the most cyber attacked country in the world. That is, India faced highest number of cyber attack in the world. In general, India has remained in the top 5, but in this case, in this month, that is April to June, India was the most cyber attack country in the world in the year 2019. Then cyber security was also in news because Kudankulam power plant was breached by malware DT track, and this was confirmed by National Power Corporation of India Limited, NPCIL, Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited, NPCIL. So Kudankulam power plant was breached by a malware, a malicious software. That became a concern, because of which a number of articles related to strengthening of India's cyber security was in news. Usse pehle Pegasus, it's a spyware of a company called NSO Group. It's an Israel-based company, and this Pegasus software was used to steal data from a number of journalists, human rights activists from India, and this had also created a concern related to cyber security in the country. So what I've done here is, in why in news category, over the whole year, what were the different reasons because of which the issue of cyber security was in news. And you would see that throughout the year, for one or the other reason, we have been talking about cyber security. Okay, so let us now start our studies. Let us now start our topic. So first thing that we'll deal with is what is cyberspace. What do you understand by the term cyberspace? Just give me a second. They have not. Yeah. First thing is, what do you understand by the term cyberspace? So in very simple terms, cyberspace is the connection of all the infrastructure, or cyberspace is basically everything that is connected to internet. That is cyberspace. So it includes your transportation system, it includes your home computer network, it includes your office computer network, it includes your hospitals, it includes your military infrastructure, because nowadays they are also connected to internet. It includes your critical infrastructure like Kudankulam power plant. So all these things, all these devices which are connected to internet is part of the cyberspace. Cyberspace is the connected internet ecosystem. Okay, so from now on, when you hear the term cyberspace, it should be clear, like everything that's connected to internet is cyberspace. Your phone, if it's connected to internet, is part of that cyberspace. Your computer, if it's connected to internet, is part of cyberspace. Government offices, they're connected to internet, they're part of that cyberspace. Second thing that you should know is, the cyberspace has emerged as the largest unregulated and uncontrolled domain in the history of mankind. Like, there has been nothing ever in the history of mankind which was so big, so large, but was completely unregulated or decentralized. In the past, anything that has been there, it has been controlled. It has had some kind of centralized control. For example, international airways. International airways had some kind of control mechanisms. But cyberspace is a domain which no single person controls. No single person or single country dominates. Cyberspace is the largest unregulated and uncontrolled domain. Then second thing about cyberspace that we should know is that it has emerged as the new theater of war, the fifth theater of war. So far, wars could be fought on land, on water, on air, but now there's emerging another arena. Sorry, land, water, air, and then a new arena that is emerging is space. And after space, we are seeing the emergence of the cyberspace, where wars could be fought. So this is the fifth potential theater of war. And therefore, because of all these reasons, it's very important that every country develops mechanism, or at least India develops mechanism to protect our cyber space. Now, what is cyber crime? Cyber crime is any crime that you do on cyberspace. So it can be something as simple as stealing someone's data. That's also cyber crime. You blocking, let's say someone cyber attacked Kudankulam power plant and made it work in an ineffective manner. That is cyber terrorism. Or if India decides tomorrow that it wants to cripple Pakistan and attacks their cyber infrastructure, that is cyber warfare. So all these things, anything illegal that is done on the cyberspace is cyber crime. Spread of fake news. If a country has a law against fake news on internet, will also be a cyber crime. Spread of child pornography through internet will also be cyber crime. Sometimes you would see that in some countries there are laws that in India also, like before Shreya Singhal case, there was section 66A of IT Act which criminalized you sending a message which was creating problems for other, or which was in a way a message which was unpleasant for someone else. That was also a cyber crime, because it was violation of, it was a crime. So violation of section 66A was a crime done on the internet, done on the cyberspace. So all these things together encompass cyber crime. And now, what is cyber security? Protection of our cyberspace, that is cyber security. So by protection of cyberspace, we would mean protection of the critical infrastructure, protection of my phone's data. That will also be part of cyber security. If because I'm using some Chinese app, the Chinese app is able to steal my personal data, they are doing a cyber crime, and India is not able to ensure cyber security. So protection of cyberspace is cyber security. Okay, so these three things: what is cyberspace, what is cyber crime, and what is cyber security. Please understand all these things very carefully. Okay, now let us look at the types of cyber threats on the basis of methods used. Now, we will also look at types of cyber threats from the perspective of its impact. There can be cyber warfare, there can be cyber terrorism, there can be just stealing of data. Okay, but here we are talking about types of cyber threats on the basis of method, technical mechanism that is being used. So one is the use of malware. Malware is this thing for abbreviation for malicious software. So malicious software, a malicious computer program can be used to, let's say, steal your data. It can be used to encrypt your computer, and then it will ask you, give me some money, else I'll not decrypt your computer, your whole data would be blocked. Or it can be used for spying purposes. That is a malware, a computer program that is doing something malicious. So a mechanism that is used by hackers or by cyber criminals to do something malicious is the use of malware or malicious software. And there are various mechanisms by which they can do it. They can use the method of virus. Virus is a computer program that can steal your data, that can slow down your computer, that can spy on your spy the information that is there on your computer. All those things it can do. But in case of virus, it has to get attached to some other executable file. That is, a virus by itself will not be able to replicate itself. A virus needs another computer program. A virus needs, let's say, Microsoft Office. A virus needs an operating system on which it will go, it will replicate, and it will infect someone else. So virus is a malware that can execute itself and spread by infecting other programs or files. So it has to get attached to executable file. Whereas a worm is also a type of malicious software or a malware. But a worm can replicate itself. That is, a worm will not need another executable file to replicate, to multiply. So basically, if a worm is there in your network, that worm by itself will replicate, will go and infect other computers. Whereas a virus will get attached to a file. Then when that file is taken to another computer, it will go there, and when that file is executed, when that file is opened, that virus will become active and will infect other computers. A worm will not need this. A worm can itself at its own replicate and spread into various computers, various network, various devices, and then do what a malicious software does. There are other forms of malicious software. One is known as Trojan horse. Trojan horse are those softwares, are those malicious softwares which appears to be legitimate softwares. They will appear as if they are not creating any harm, but they are actually harmful. So they're designed to appear as a legitimate program. For example, a Trojan called Event Bot was in news in May 2020 when Computer Emergency Response Team had issued an advisory warning people against this event bot, which was uh, stealing banking information of people using some loophole that was available in the Android software. Then another type of malware can be spyware. What is spyware? Spyware is a malicious software. It can be a virus, it can be a worm, it can be anything else, or it can be a Trojan horse, which is focused on stealing, spying on your data and stealing it. Then another form of malware can be ransomware. Now, what is ransomware? Ransomware will seek ransom from you. How will it seek ransom? It will encrypt your device and block it from being accessed by you. So when I open my computer, it will show me a message, your computer is blocked. You cannot open it. If you want your computer to be opened, that is, if you want access back to your computer, pay us this much money in this account. That is a ransomware. For example, in May 2017, WannaCry was a ransomware which had impacted many computers across the world, and it wanted you to transfer some bitcoins in a Bitcoin account, in their Bitcoin account. Only then your computer was decrypted. So this is also a form of malware. Then rootkit. Rootkit is a malware which gives the administrative access or root access of your computer to someone else. Okay, so these are some kinds of malicious software. So we are talking about different methods, different mechanisms by which cyber attacks can take place. It can take place in the form of malicious software. That malicious software can be virus, it can be a worm, it can be a Trojan horse, it can be a ransomware, it can be of many different types. But this is one technical way by which cyber attack can take place. There are other methods also. There is Advanced Persistent Threat, APT. Advanced Persistent Threat is a method of cyber attack. Now look at the name. Advanced Persistent Threat. Persistent. It will be there. This threat will be there for long. So what happens in this kind of advanced persistent threat is, in this situation, the computer program or the virus or anything else will remain in your computer for a long period, will remain in your network for a long period. You will not know about it, you will not get to know about it. It's not harming your computer. What it's doing is, it is monitoring. Persistently, it will monitor your device and it will steal data. It's not damaging, it's not harming your computer, you would not know it. But it will remain there and it will steal your information. Okay, so these advanced persistent threats are generally used to steal national security information, defense information, or to steal, let's say, intellectual property right information, and so on. Then there is denial of service attack. Denial of service attack is a simple type of attack. See, now let's say you have, let's say we talk about LevelUp IAS. Now we have created a website, levelupias.com. levelupias.com, and this website has been hosted on a server, and let's say this server is capable of taking 100 requests per second. That is, it is capable of handling 100 users at a time. In denial of service attack, what someone would do is, they would send unnecessary machine-made thousands of requests. My server will not be able to handle it. What would happen in this situation? Some genuine user, some of you who are actually trying to access this website, you will not be able to access it. Thus, the service has been denied to genuine users by this denial of service attacks, where unnecessary machine-made request for accessing this server, accessing this website has been made. Similarly, there is an advanced form of denial of service attack that is known as distributed denial of service attack. What happens in case of distributed denial of service attack? There are two things because of which we call it a distributed denial of service attack. One, just give me a second. One is to deal with denial of service attacks. What people have done is they are hosting their website on multiple servers. In distributed denial of service attacks or in DNS flood, all these servers are attacked at one go, so that your service actually get denied. And this is a bit advanced, more technology, more attacking mechanisms, more powerful attacking mechanisms would be required. Okay, so these are in technical ways, different ways in which cyber attack can take place on your computers. Now, this malwares can spread by physically. Sometimes when you bring a pen drive, you transfer some data from one computer to another, you see that your machine, your laptop has reduced its productivity, its efficiency, because some virus has infected your computer. So it can come physically through USB devices, it can be downloaded. Sometimes when you visit websites which are not safe and download something from there or click something there, you accidentally download viruses. Phishing attacks or spear phishing. What is phishing attack? Phishing attack is a mechanism by which it's a mechanism where you get these mails. Please share me your details. I have 1 crore rupee, or I have these. I'm from Africa. I have this much money. I want to transfer it in your account. So people who are not aware of these things, they will share their details with those people. That is phishing attack. When a malicious party sends a fraudulent email disguised as a legitimate email. In the same way, spear phishing is a phishing mechanism which is tailored for specific individual. For example, I'll receive a mail saying that, dear Santosh, we have this proposal for you. Please share your these details, or please transfer this much money for. So, dear Santosh, they'll have some of my information. I would feel that the mail is genuine. That is spear phishing. Okay, then another form of cyber attack can be social engineering. Social engineering, that is on social media websites, you will be either, let's say, radicalized by showing you certain information. Slowly you will get radicalized. That is a form of social engineering. Or let's say a girl pings you, hi, you return back, hi, and the conversation starts. Then she tells you, I'll send you my semi-nude pics or nude pics, but I'll send this only through this software. So you will download that software. And when you download that software, you also end up downloading a virus or a spyware which will steal your computer's data. So this is called honey trap. Honey trap is also a kind of social engineering. So in social engineering, we manipulate people into breaking security norms. So let's say I was chatting with this girl says that she would send me her pics, but only through this particular app. But when I try to install that app, my computer says that I have to reduce some of the security features of my computer. So what I actually did, I broke normal security procedures and I downloaded that app, I installed that app which is going to steal the information that I have. That is social engineering. Okay, now come to there's another form of cyber attack that you may face, that is exploits of zero-day vulnerability. What are these exploits of zero-day vulnerability? See, zero-day vulnerability, let's say your operating system, you're using Windows 10, the Windows 10 operating system. A defect is identified in that operating system. Whenever a defect is identified in that operating system, the moment a defect is identified in that operating system, that is day zero. Microsoft will start working on that defect and will very soon bring in the solution. But cyber attackers, hackers, they will exploit this zero-day vulnerability as soon as possible use that defect and penetrate into your computer. That is zero-day exploits of zero-day vulnerability. So all these things are different technical ways by which cyber attacks can take place. Okay, now let us come to why dealing with cyber security is challenging. Like, we're not talking about what are the challenges India is facing in dealing with cyber security, but in general, dealing with cyber security is challenging, more challenging than, let's say, dealing with border security or dealing with other forms of security, because cyber security or cyberspace has some inherent features which make it vulnerable. For example, the cyberspace has innumerable entry points. Let's say एक कॉलेज का LAN है या wide area network है. There are so many devices which are connected to that network. Many devices may be using updated software and latest hardwares, which the hackers are not able to penetrate. But some of us may be using a device which does not have updated software, which does not have the latest hardwares, and thus are vulnerable to attacks. So in cyberspace, because there are so many devices, so many vulnerable points are there. This is an inherent feature of cyberspace which makes it difficult to protect cyberspace. Let's say border security mein we create a wall between India and Pakistan and we deploy lots of soldiers. It's possible that we'll ensure border security, but that is not feasible for cyber security, because in cyber security there are so many devices, so many entry points for hackers. Then cyber security is also changing because the technologies keep changing so fast. Like, Microsoft will come with one form of operating system. Hackers will find a lot of vulnerabilities in it. They will upgrade it. They'll then come up with next operating system. In 3 years, they'll come with another operating system. And same happens in case of Android. They are coming with newer and newer systems. Earlier we had 2G, 3G, 4G. Now we are moving towards 5G. Then new things like Internet of Things, cloud computing, all these things are coming. So technology is changing so fast that sometimes it's not feasible for every individual to change according to that technology. Like Government of India, in Government of India's in our government institutions, there are a lot of computers which may still be using Windows XP. Windows has stopped giving support for Windows XP, but still people are using it. Still government agencies, government institutions are using it. All these things make cyber security a big challenge. Then another reason why cyber security in general or ensuring cyber security is a challenge, because here nation states like Chinese government itself, or non-state actors, some terrorist organization or some group of hackers or individuals, they're all at a peer level. That is, a hacker sitting in some garage is, or may, if he identifies the vulnerability, be equally able to impact you than a country or a organization together. That is, it's not possible for you to control every individual or ensure rule of law being followed by every individual. A hacker sitting in some place will be able to hack into your system. Then some countries promote, shelter or encourage cyber criminals. For example, it is said that Russia or China, they have so many cyber criminals or hackers who are working for the government or who have got shelters from the government. And then cyber criminals have also become very organized. You may have heard terms like darknet and all. Using those mechanisms of darknet, using some proprietary browsers, they are easily able to share vulnerabilities, share codes by which hacking can happen, by which cyber attacks can happen. Then at last, increasing penetration of internet. Now, so many people, like over the last 10 years or so, all over the world, number of internet users have increased exponentially. Now, many of these people are who are first time users, they are not aware of cyber hygiene. Cyber hygiene, like they should not download uh, anything from websites which are malicious, which are not trustworthy. Cyber hygiene, like they should keep their software updated. Cyber hygienes, like uh, they should not go to like unrecognized websites. Cyber hygienes, like in case of financial transaction should only happen from https or through https protocols. These are some fundamental things which every internet user should know. When a new user when a new person becomes an internet user, when a person becomes a new internet user, that person is not aware of these things, which increases the vulnerability of that person's device, and the whole network to which the device is connected becomes vulnerable. Because of these things, cyber security has emerged as a challenging thing. Now, what are the damages that cyber security can cause? Damages may, one, it can impact national security. How? By cyber espionage. Our military, navy, all their infrastructure is connected to internet. Now, other countries, they may use hackers to get into our system and extract secret information. Then warfare. What if between India, a war between India and China, rather than attacking through us through our borders, attacks our cyber infrastructure? Terrorism, terrorists attacking our cyber infrastructure. For example, the Kudankulam power plant. Recently, someone accessed a system there. Though that system was not that important, but still, it increases the chances that India may face these problems in future. Now, a good example would be that after the May-June border incidents with China, the number of cyber attacks which India is facing from China has increased. Like, we faced cyber attacks even earlier, but now they seem to be more planned, more organized. Why is this so? This is because of this issue. Okay, now another problem that may be created. One is the problem of national security. Another is the disabling of critical infrastructure. Critical infrastructure are nuclear power plants or our defense infrastructure. All those are critical infrastructure that may be made disabled by cyber attack. So example would be DTRAC, which was used to breach the Kudankulam power plant. So though Kudankulam power plant was not disabled, but this DTRAC was able to breach it. Then economic losses may occur because of cyber attack. In fact, a cybersecurity ventures, they predict that global annual cyber crime cost, that is financial cost which cyber crimes are causing, was $3 trillion in 2015. India's GDP is not $3 trillion, but globally the world loses economic gains worth $3 trillion because of cyber attack, and this number may increase to $6 trillion by 2021. This is the extent of losses that are occurring. Other than this, there are also information loss, there are business disruption. Business disruption is 36% of this cost, information loss is another 39% of this cost. There are other ways also in which cyber attacks can take place. There is a security breach of ATM cards that may happen through one or the other form of cyber attack. So what happens in this situation? ATM jamming may happen. So ATM jamming actually is not a type of cyber attack. Let us look at these three things bit separately. What is ATM jamming? ATM jamming is basically when you insert your card and press a button. Let's say you press 7392, which is that, let's say this is your password for your ATM card. They will jam the ATM, so you will not be able to, like when you have pressed the button, that button will not be effective. So you will remove your card and go because ATM has been jammed. Those people will come and de-jam those buttons and will use the ATM machine by the ATM card that you had used. There is card swapping. When you give your card to someone for payment, the person gives you another card and keeps that card with themselves. That is card swapping. Or skimming. Skimming is a mechanism by which a small device is attached to the place where ATM card is inserted. That device reads the magnetic data which is there on the ATM card, and using that data they create another card with the same information. So these are different ways by which security breach of ATM cards may happen, but let's keep it out. Let's not directly involve it in cyber security, but these things can also be a form of cyber security breach. Now, social media, like cyber crimes also can take place through social media in very simple way by something like spreading fake news. That's also a form of cybercrime which is taking place through internet, or by promoting radicalization of youth. So terrorists know that after Gujarat riots, the XYZ community may be facing or may be in a tense situation. Those terrorists will ping them, will start communication with them, and will then start sending them some fake information to show that they should fight for justice and thus become a terrorist. These things happen online using normal social media communication. That's also a form of cyber crime, and this is one way in which people can be attacked. Then there is honey trapping, there is data phishing. All these are mechanisms, all these are methods by which cyber attacks take place using social media. Then cyber hacktivists. Cyber hacktivists are basically hacker plus activists. So suppose they want to protest against government. Let's say there is farmer protest going on, and some activists who are also hackers, they will deface a government website. That is, they will go to Ministry of Agriculture website and deface it. So that is done by cyber hacktivists. This is one form of damage which can be caused by cyber attack. Another form of damage that can be caused by cyber attack is breach of my right to privacy. My personal information would be stolen and would be put on darknet or would be put on internet. Then there are other crimes, other forms of crimes which can happen on cyber world. Online abuse, harassment, stalking, trolling, child pornography. All these are different forms of cyber threats or cyber attacks. Okay, so damages that can be caused by cyber attack, this is something that we were discussing, and we have discussed various different forms of damages which can be caused there. Now let's go to cyber security situation in India. So India has become the second largest user of internet in the world. That is, India has the second largest number of users of internet in the world. Highest number of users are where? In China. Second highest are in India. And many of us are first time users, and thus cyber hygiene is absent, and we are emerging as one of the topmost countries in terms of cyber attacks we face. We generally remain in top 10. US is the most targeted country, but we generally also remain in top 10. Now, recent analysis, as I was talking about the China thing, that attacks from China has increased drastically after the border disputes that were going on. So India is a country which is very vulnerable. What are we doing for it? What are we doing to deal with the vulnerability that India is facing? First is, at major level, we have certain things. We have a policy, we have a law, we have various schemes, programs, etc. We'll deal with them one by one. Let us start with National Cyber Security Policy. So the current policy is the National Cyber Security Policy 2013. It was in news recently as Prime Minister had said that India needs an effective policy and various News reports had said that India is on the verge of, or government of India is on the verge of approving a new cyber security policy. So what is the 2013 policy? What are the problems with it? So, because of which we need the new policy. Right now the details of new policy, the new policy hasn't been approved yet, and thus the details of that policy is not in the public domain. Detail of the draft policy is also not in the public domain. We have the 2013 policy that that's there. Let us understand this 2013 policy. So this policy aims at protection of information. So what are the key aims of this policy? 1, protection of cyberspace. 2, reducing the vulnerability of cyberspace. 3, building capabilities in terms of infrastructure and human resource so that our cyberspace can be protected and minimize damage. That is, in case our cyberspace is attacked, in case we face some cybersecurity problems, the damages should be as less as possible, minimum as possible. Okay, for this, what it is doing, the policy has provided for institutional framework. There is National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center, NCIIPC. This National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection provide for a 24/7 mechanism to deal with cyber threats. Similarly, there is CERTIN. CERTIN is the nodal agency for coordination of crisis management in the country. It has been given the overall responsibility of looking after the cyber security in the country. Then under this policy, government also provides best practices and guidelines to promote cyber security. These best practices and guidelines were provided to state governments as well as various central government departments and to people in general. The policy also calls for establishment of a legal framework for challenges and disputes that arise out of the cyber security policy. But this legal framework hasn't been created yet. The policy also called for periodic review for adequacy and effectiveness of security and information infrastructure in India. But again, the periodic review of cyber security policy has not occurred. Then the policy calls for promoting more research and development. So for this, the policy called for investing more in research and development, collaborating with industry and academia, setting up of center of excellence, R&D in the newest technology, cutting edge technology, and focus on the indigenous development of cyber security solutions. But again, on these also not a lot of efforts have been made. Like even now, the cyber security solutions, that is antivirus or the newest network security mechanisms, methods, for all these things were dependent on other countries. Cutting edge security technologies, for example, let's say artificial intelligence, machine learning, or the quantum computing, the newest cutting edge technologies which are emerging, on these research in India are still very less. Center of excellence to promote cyber security, there are hardly any. So the policy had envisaged a lot of things, but not a lot of things have happened. Then promoting PPP and collaborating engagement with private sector, developing cyber security human resource. Now human resource is very crucial to ensure cyber security. Human resource which understands network security, which understands cyber security. So the policy had envisaged that in 5 years, 5 lakh professionals trained in cyber security would be created, but not even 10% of this has been achieved. The policy also focused on awareness program. The policy said that government will promote cyber hygiene by making new users aware of the challenges posed by cyber security and how cyber security could be ensured. But this has also not happened. Then each organization should promote cyber security through information security policies. That is, each organization should have an information security policy. Like government organization or private organization, they should have information security policy. They should allocate some budget for cyber security. They should designate a person as chief information security officer who should be responsible for cyber security initiatives, and they should use IT products which are certified and which are in sensitive security areas. All these things should be there. This was one of the mandates of cyber security policy, that is organization level pe cyber security would be promoted by these mechanisms. But we are saying that now we need to review this cybersecurity policy. Why? One core reason: implementation of this policy has been really poor, has not been really effective. That is one major issue. But other than this too, technological advancement in the field of artificial intelligence, in the field of Internet of Things, have been made since 2013, and this policy which was made in 2013 have not kept these things in mind. So over the last 7 years, the cybersecurity landscape has undergone radical change in the country. Then human resource development, which was one of the focus of the cybersecurity policy, has not been effective. We know that we do not have enough, government agencies do not have enough cybersecurity experts to protect their cyber infrastructure. Then there's also need of governance reform. What kind of governance reform do we need? Like right now we have 36 different central bodies. That is, at central government level we have 36 different bodies which look after cyber issues. All this create confusion. What is needed? This plethora of agency creates confusion. What is needed is a central agency on the line of CBI or Chief Election Commissioner, who looks after the whole cyber security framework. This 36 different central bodies, like RBI के अंदर एक separate body है, SEBI के अंदर एक separate body है, और every ministry has a separate body looking after cyber security. It unnecessarily creates problems, doubts, duplications, which has to be changed. Then this lack of unified cybersecurity framework is also across different regulators. As I was saying that RBI, SEBI, IRDAI, TRAI, they have different cybersecurity framework, and the inter-regulator coordination is missing. That needs to improve. Then we also need to set up a cyber defense agency. That is, in our security forces, we have army for land protection, we have navy for water, we have air force for air warfare. We need a cyber defense agency, a specialized body to implement our cyber defense strategy at the national security level. So here we should provide for cyber commando forces. What is this? Cyber commando forces means, जैसे we have army में specialized battalions and so on, we need to create cyber commando forces which will be able to neutralize any cyber attacks which are made on India, or which will be able to ready to attack other countries in order to ensure that we retaliate in an effective manner. Further, we also need specialized cyber policy cadres at the police level, at the state police department level. Then awareness level also needs to go up, which has not been that effective under the previous policy. So previous policy suffers from a number of limitations. These are the ways by which we need to upgrade, we need to improve upon those, and that's why we need a change in the policy. Second, legal framework. Legal framework also needs to change. Currently, the Information Technology Act 2000 is the primary law dealing with cyber crimes in India. There are various provisions in it. For example, section 43 of the law deals with data protection, section 66 deals with hacking, section 66A dealt with offensive messages, but this section 66A has been removed by the Shreya Singhal case. Section 66B provides for punishment for illegally possessing stolen computer resources. Section 67 provides for protection against unauthorized use of data. Section 69 provides for cyber terrorism. So all these things are there. But again, this legal framework has also not been very effective. We'll talk about this also in greater details. Okay, but to deal with cyber security, we have this cyber security policy, we have this legal framework. Then there are some recent schemes, programs we should know. Because of Cyber Dome question last year, we should know about some major schemes which government has launched in recent years. So that if you know what that scheme is, you'll be able to write other things. Significance of the scheme, so human resource development, infrastructure development, more finance, those could be the significance of scheme. But for that, you need to know exactly what the schemes are. So recently, Government of India has launched Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center, or IC4. Indian C4, 4 times C, Cyber Crime Coordination Center. What is this Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center? This is a 7-pronged scheme to fight cyber crime. 7-pronged scheme, like it has 7 heads with the help of which it will fight cyber crimes. One is the National Cybercrime Threat Analytics Unit. This unit will analyze the cyber threat levels in the country. Second is National Cybercrime Reporting Portal. Through this website, citizens would be able to report cyber crimes, including crimes related to child pornography, child sexual abuse, and so on. Then there are platforms for joint cybercrime investigation team. So here, cybercrime investigation would be the focus. There is National Cybercrime Forensic Laboratory Ecosystem, where the focus would be on establishing more laboratory and strengthening the current ones. There is National Cybercrime Training Center, there is Cybercrime Ecosystem Management Unit, there is National Cybercrime Research and Innovation Centers. So these are the 7 prongs in the IC4 by which Ministry of Home Affairs has launched recently to strengthen India's cybersecurity framework. Okay, now there are certain other things. For example, Cyber Ashwast project. Cyber Ashwast's full form is Cyber Assured Assistance Service Helpline for Victims at Shortest Time. This is an exclusive helpline portal where victims of cybercrime can quickly reach government agencies and report their crimes. There are some other steps which have been taken recently in India to promote cyber security. There is, for awareness generation, there are certain programs. For example, Cyber Surakshit Bharat initiative. This Cyber Surakshit Bharat, Surakshit is protected. So, Cyber Protected Bharat India initiative. So, Cyber Surakshit Bharat initiative was launched in 2018. What is the purpose? 1. Awareness generation. Awareness generation or promoting cyber hygiene. And 2. Building capacity for safety measures for Chief Information Security Officers and frontline IT staff across all government departments. See, cybersecurity policy has said that we need a cybersecurity Chief Information Security Officer in every office and IT staff across all government departments. They don't exist. Under Cyber Surakshit Bharat initiative, 1 focus is awareness generation, 2nd focus is human resource development for this purpose. 2nd, for awareness generation only, you can also mention PMG Disha, Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Saksharta Abhiyan. So under this, the aim is that in every rural household, there should be 1 person who should be capable of using computer or internet and mobile phones and so on. But through this, we are also promoting people through, and for this, various training programs or skill development programs are provided for. But through this, we also make them aware about issues related to cyber hygiene. Then there is National Cyber Security Coordination Center. This was developed in 2017 to detect real-time threats by scanning internet data coming into the country. Government also launched Cyber Swachhta Kendra. Cyber Swachhta Kendra basically are portals through which you can check whether your phones have viruses, whether your computers have viruses, and you can also download antiviruses and so on. This is Cyber Swachhta Kendra. Then all new government websites have to be audited prior to their hosting. A separate division has also been established in Ministry of Home Affairs for cyber information security. International cooperation in cyber security is also increasing. For example, very recently in October 2020, in the 2nd ASEAN India Track 1.5 dialogue, the focus was on cyber issues. India has recently signed a memorandum of cooperation with Japan in the field of cyber security. This memorandum of cooperation is focusing on many areas of mutual interest, including capacity building, protection of critical infrastructure, cooperation in emerging technologies, sharing information in cyber security, and so on. So India has taken a lot of steps to deal with cybersecurity. We have a policy, we have a law, we have certain schemes, and then we have all these initiatives that we talked about. But still, cybersecurity is a challenge in the country. Cybersecurity is facing a number of issues. So, one major issue is our law and our policies are outdated. We've already discussed how outdated they are. Then another major issue, lack of trained manpower. This is also something that we have already discussed. Then third major concern that occurs in India, which increases vulnerability of India's cybersecurity situation, is dependency on ICT imports. Information and communication technology related things are being imported in the country. We import a lot of mobile phones, we are using a lot of foreign apps, We import a lot of hardware. India is not good in hardware manufacturing. So for information and communication technology, we depend a lot on imports, which makes us vulnerable. For example, when we are importing a lot of things from China, China can manufacture, or the Chinese companies can provide for a manufacturing backdoor. Manufacturing backdoor, like they would say that this phone is completely secure, but they may add in a backdoor there by which the Chinese government or Chinese agencies would be able to access the personal data of individuals who are using those phones. In the same way, they may provide for unauthorized access to protected memory. They may include some fault specifically by which the device can be hijacked. They can provide for hardware tampering by performing various invasive operations. They may insert some hidden method by which normal authentication mechanism of the system may be bypassed. It's why all these things are there, are a problem for us, because all these things may be coming from a country with which we are not having that close relation. Similarly, we lack digital solutions like data sharing facilities, cloud computing facilities, like we use OneDrive by Microsoft, or we use Google Drive by Google, or we use Dropbox again by some US company. We do not have a national, we do not have a indigenous cloud computing service or data sharing facility, which makes us vulnerable. Then a lack of awareness about cyber hygiene is a concern. Rapidly changing technology, we have discussed why it can become a concern. A use of some substandard devices and rampant use of unlicensed software. Substandard devices, poor hardware, more vulnerability. Substandard software, unlicensed software. A lot of us use Windows which is unlicensed. When Windows is unlicensed, what happens in that situation is it's not getting updated. When it does not get updated, so when a vulnerability occurs, Microsoft will work on Windows and update it, but your Windows which is not licensed will not get updated and thus would remain vulnerable, and hackers would know about it. They will keep looking for computers which are vulnerable, and it would be easy to penetrate some virus, some bug into that system. And in India, a lot of this happens. A lot of us use these unlicensed softwares. Then private sector's contribution in cybersecurity in India has been very less. Private investment in this field has been very less. This is also a major cause of concern. Various institutions which are involved in cybersecurity, there's a lack of coordination among them. As I was saying that at national level, we have 36 different bodies which deals with cybersecurity. There are SEBI, RBI, all these regulatory bodies have different mechanisms to promote cybersecurity. But there's a lack of coordination. This has become a concern. Then India's cyber capabilities are mostly defensive. We lack offensive capabilities. That is, whatever we are working on how do we protect India's infrastructure? How do we protect India's cyberspace? But we need offensive capabilities also. This offensive capability acts as deterrent. For example, tomorrow Pakistan or some hacker from Pakistan penetrates into Indian system and hampers us. If they know that India is capable of disabling their infrastructure, they will be less motivated to do these things. But India does not have that offensive capability. And finally, global cyber norms are missing. Because of this absence of global cyber norms, there's a lack of balance between the national sovereignty and transnational connectivity. That is, if there was an international norm related to cyber threat, cyber warfare, then there would have been less chance that cyber threats originating from one country could have impacted other country. Less chance. That would have still happened, but the chances would have been less. But in the absence of any norm, all this cyber warfare, cyber terrorism are occurring without the other country's government taking any responsibility. Okay, now, so these are the challenges. We'll talk about how do we deal with these challenges. We'll talk about way forward. But before that, briefly discuss the topic of cyber deterrence. Now, what is this topic of cyber deterrence? As I was saying that cyber deterrence will be of two types. One, you develop defensive capabilities. India is working a lot on developing defensive capabilities. Second is you develop a lot of offensive capabilities. That also becomes a deterrence, because other country will be reluctant to attack you because you have offensive capabilities. You will counter attack them. It's like nuclear deterrence. So India needs to develop a cyber deterrence. So now when we talk about cyber deterrence, should it be defensive? Now developing a defensive cyber deterrence is a problem, because it's very like we have seen that cyberspace has a lot of vulnerability, and cyber attack can take place from any of those vulnerabilities. But at the same time, developing a cyber offensive deterrence, like your ability to attack other country, by that deterrence happens. That's also a challenge. Why is that a challenge? That's a challenge because when you have to attack someone, you have to exactly know from where the attack took place. But in cyber space, knowing that is also difficult. And if you're not sure from which country the attack has actually taken place, and if you attack that country, you will create unnecessary problems. Suppose China is attacking us, but the cyber attack which is taking place from China ends up showing that the cyber attack is actually taking place from France. They divert that attack from French system to our system. We would feel that the attack is coming from France, and we will cyber attack France, and that will be unnecessary problem. So what we're trying to say is cyber deterrence is very difficult. Defensive cyber deterrence is difficult because it's difficult to identify from where the attack is taking place. Defensive cyber deterrence is difficult because because for defensive cyber deterrence, you will have to ensure that vulnerabilities of all the systems are removed, but one or the other system would remain vulnerable. In the same way, offensive cyber deterrence is difficult because it's difficult to identify a source. So this is something that is being discussed in this section. If you read these notes, you'll understand it more. Now let's come to way forward. For ensuring better cyber security in India, what do we need to do? So कुछ basic चीजें, reforming our policies, reforming our laws, that we have discussed. Human resource development, the need of human resource development, that's also we have discussed. More focus on infrastructure and more R&D. We have to ensure that our infrastructure is updated, especially the infrastructure in our defense forces, in our critical infrastructure. It has to be updated, and we need to do more research and development in the upcoming technologies. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, quantum computing. Like quantum computing can actually change the face of cyber security within a few days. Like the day a company says that it can in an affordable way create quantum computers, the current cyber security norms would all just be waste. So we need to ensure that we are also ready with our quantum computer system. Then we need to promote cyber hygiene. We need to promote the role of private players. So here private players can contribute in a number of ways. We need to encourage startups to develop our own social networking sites, to develop our own cloud computing system, so that we do not have to depend on other countries for this. Then private sectors can also participate more in industry focused processes. Like Microsoft has initiated cyber security tech accord. Industries are coming here together and following certain norms, rules to ensure better cyber security. So our industries can participate in this kind of mechanism. So Microsoft has cyber security tech accord, or Siemens have charter of trust. Our industries can participate more in these things. We need to develop offensive deterrence capability to have better deterrence. यहाँ पे cyber defense agency or specialized cyber security cells in various police departments are needed. We need to promote international cooperation to develop cyber norms. Absence of cyber norms is a concern. So here we can think of acceding to Budapest Convention or Convention on Cyber Crime of the Council of Europe. This was started as an European initiative, but now it has attracted other countries also. India can think of joining it as well. And we should also be ready for implications of quantum computing on cyber security. Like when the present cyber security is based on the RSA encryption system. RSA encryption system or all the present encryption system may be made redundant by quantum computing. So we must also prepare our cyberspace for the coming up of quantum computing. So to deal with cybersecurity challenges, we have to bring changes at the government level, we have to bring changes at the industry level, and we also have to bring changes at the people level. More social hygiene, more update, latest softwares, etc. These things together can ensure better cybersecurity situation in the country. Alone, even if we fail at any one of these, cyber security situation would not remain strong. Okay, so let us take a break here. This is the first video on cyber security. Now we'll deal with, in the second part, we'll deal with remaining sections on cyber security.
Hit the bell icon to never miss an update from LevelUp IAS. Make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.